Hi everybody and welcome to True Confessions of a PK. I'm Karina and today we have a guest speaker.
I'm Vanessa.
Vanessa is actually our oldest sister. Right, Nina?
Yeah.
So today's episode is Confession 7, I'm Bad at Hide and Seek. And we're basing this episode off of the story of Jonah, which can be found in the book of Jonah in the Bible. So Vanessa, can you give us a brief summary on the story of Jonah?
Yeah, so from what I know, Jonah was a prophet of the Lord. And so basically meaning that anytime God spoke, any word that God would speak to him, Jonah would go and he would speak it wherever God told him to, right? And so one day God was like, Jonah, Nineveh. And Jonah was like, no. And he's like, absolutely not Nineveh of all places. Because Nineveh was a place where there was a lot of sin, there was a lot of crime, and basically just not a place you wanted to be, right? And so in that mindset, Jonah decided to take off, and while trying to take off, he was swallowed by this big fish, or a whale, if you will. And while he was being digested, he encountered the Lord, right? And he just really got to meet God in that place and be able to understand why he needed to do what he needed to do. And so at the end of the day, he ended up going to Nineveh and he spoke what needed to be spoken. But yeah, that's what he would do, basically.
So in the book of Jonah, we learn that you can't really hide from the Lord, you know, and when the Lord tells you to do something, you know, you should do it. You don't want to get swallowed by a big fish, right? But don't make that face. But anyway,
where are you going to get swallowed by a big fish nowadays? Barely any ocean.
No, there's ocean. It can be a big fish of pollution. There's a lot of pollution in the ocean. Anyway, back on track. So essentially what I wanted to talk about was how we reach a point in our lives where, you know, God calls us, we have a purpose. But as pastors' kids, and with everything that we have mentioned in the past videos, right? In the past episodes, there have been so many situations where we focus on the negative rather than the positive, because like I've mentioned many times, we're human, right? And people are always going to fail. God's not the one who's going to fail us. People are the ones who are going to fail us, but we focus on that failure and not on the success of the moment, not on the joy of the moment, you know? So as pastors' kids, with that focus, that mentality of the negative, emotionally for me, I went through moments where I was like, God, I don't want to do this. You know, God says, go ahead and do it. And I'm like, I don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't want to do this anymore. Because what if? That's what I focused on.
Oh, I thought...
No.
I thought there was more after that. I'm like, why is she stuck?
Well, yeah, but I did get stuck. I thought that would sound good anyway. But yes, the what ifs, like that's what I focused on, right? And as I mentioned, I think it was in the first episode, like I sought out to be a perfect pastor's kid. So my focus was on how I was going to look afterwards, how I was going to make my parents look afterwards. Like were people going to agree with that? Were the people of the congregation going to be content with that? And the thing about serving the Lord is you're serving the Lord. You know, you're not serving the congregation. It's not for their content. It's not for the purpose that they're giving you. It's the purpose that the Lord has given you, right? It's what He has called you to do. Would you like to add something?
I mean, that was yours.
Okay.
What am I gonna add to yours?
No, I'm saying like you can add yours. Here.
Oh,
Into
yeah. I mean, yeah. No, I mean, I get that. Like, I think it's a little different for everybody, obviously, right? I think in my experience, it's been like that for a while. Like, and even now, like I'll admit, like I still struggle to, you know, accept whatever purpose God has for me. Which is funny because, so true story. Anytime we would go to like retreats or like stuff like that, and they would do like small games, the character that they would always assign me was Jonah. That was always the character that I would get assigned. And so when people would like talk to me or like pray for me or whatever, it was always like, you need to get out of that whale that you're sitting in. Like I was always getting compared to Jonah, right? To this day, Jonah and I are friends. And so I guess in my experience, it's always been that, just that thought process of like, I know what we've been through, like I know what I've experienced. I know what I've lived. I know how people can be, and it's damaging. And I guess you could say that it's like a bit of like trauma. And not necessarily like bad, it's not necessarily like bad trauma or, something that you can't recover from. Like you can definitely recover from it, but it does leave some damage, it does leave some type of scar, when you go through so much stuff like that, negative stuff like that, because when you grow up with it, I mean, you're a kid, right? You're absorbing all of that. You're taking all of that in. And so when you're taking all of that in, that's what you grow up with. That's what you hold in, right? And so I think in my experience, like it was just hard to accept, and it still is, to accept that God says, hey, this is what I have for you and this is what I want you to do. And you're like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to live this way for the rest of my life. I've already experienced it all my childhood. Why do I want to continue to experience it as an adult or have my kids go through it when they're when they're children and stuff like that? So I think it's just like a mix of it. And it's not to say that if you don't accept it, you're going to be eaten by a whale or whatever. No. But I mean, you do have to understand that God's plan is better. And he gives us free will. I mean, he gave Jonah free will, and Jonah chose, hey, I don't want to do this, right? And took off. And he got swallowed by a whale. But it's metaphorical. Like, I mean, we're not going to get swallowed by this big fish, but we might encounter big fishes or storms in our lives. Yeah. And then we want to blame God, but it's not God's fault. We made our own choices, Yeah. So I think, I mean, it makes sense to want to run just because you have that trauma, just because you have that past experience. I think it's a matter of just pushing forward, like, learning to grow from it.
And it's like the type of relationship that you have or that you should have with the Lord is kind of like a parent-child relationship, right? Like, you seek him for guidance. You seek him for comfort in times of need. You seek him to provide, right? Because God is our provider. And et cetera, et cetera. There's so much more. And so the way I was thinking about it right now is like when you're a kid and you break something at the store and you try to hide it. Like, you don't want to tell your parents because then it's like, now we have to pay for it, right? You don't want to tell people because you don't want to get in trouble for it. You know you did wrong in this case, right? In this case, you know you did wrong, but you're trying to hide it from your parents when in reality your parents are the ones that can help you. They're the ones that can be like, okay, yes, we did this wrong, but we can fix it.
Yeah.
You don't have to stay in this bubble of guilt and shame. We can get out of it. And that's kind of how you have to see your relationship with the Lord, is like a parent and a kid. you're going to be in this bubble of guilt and shame because you're human. That's what you're going to focus on the negativity. But God's not focused on the negative. God's eyes are everywhere. God sees everything. So while you're looking here, he's looking around you, and so he sees the bigger picture, and so he can help pull you out of it.
Yeah. I think Jonah is a really good, like, central, I'm going to use the word central just because it's like a centered subject, but I think it's a really good story for a lot of different examples, because it doesn't just have to be your purpose in life. It could be anything. Like you said, maybe you did something wrong and you're feeling shame, you're feeling guilt, or maybe you're just wanting to turn away from God, just wanting to turn away from the church. Some people do that. That's their choice. That's fine. No judgment here, but it's the same thing. You make your choices, you make decisions that you want to make. Maybe you didn't think them through all the way. Maybe you just didn't focus on what the actual consequences could be. And then we want to turn around and we want to blame God for our problems. And it's human reaction. It's plain and simple. It's human reaction. And I think a lot of the negative things that we've encountered, we have to remember they were human reactions, right? And so it's hard. It's definitely hard because you want to turn away from a certain lifestyle while still trying to maintain a relationship with God. But it's like, well, this is what God wants for me. This is what God has for me. And we forget that everything that we've encountered, everything that we've experienced has been human. Yeah. It hasn't been him. And I like that the story of Jonah can just really revolve around so many of these things because there's different things that happen. I think, like with me, it's just been difficult. I mean, obviously I'm the oldest one, and I've had to experience it for a little longer than you guys have, and I've kind of taken the hit, I think, in certain things a little harder than you guys also. And I do think that I've taken it a little more personally, emotionally, like I just take it in because I don't know if it's like a protective thing, like like if I can take it in, you guys won't have to, even though it's like that's not possible, you know what I mean? But yeah, I think in a way that's played a role because I remember, for a long time, I think I don't know, but I was little. I would tell mom, like, why'd you marry a pastor? Like, not dad, but like, why'd you marry a pastor? Like, there's always something that needs to be done. There's always people that we need to talk to. We're always getting told things. We're always getting pointed at. Like, I don't want to marry a pastor. I would always tell mom that, and mom would tell me like, well, what if the man that God has for you is a pastor? Like, you're just not going to want him because he's a pastor? I'm like, no, I mean, it's different, but I'm praying that God doesn't give me a pastor because God knows I don't want to marry a pastor. And there's nothing wrong with being a pastor. If anything, it's a blessing. And I've learned to understand that now. But it was all of the stuff, all of the heavy stuff that came with it that just started to build that inside of me, right? And so I know with other pastors' kids, their thought process is, well, I don't even want to be in the church anymore. I don't even want to be involved in the church. I don't even like want to get to know God anymore. Because if God loved us and God loved me, why does he allow all these people to treat my family this way? Yeah. And they leave. And then there's other people that are pastors' kids that make mistakes, and they get pointed at by the church. They get pointed at by the people, by human beings who also make mistakes, who also do bad things. And they get signaled out like if they were some, I don't know, like some disease, you know, like they get signaled out like a disease. And that causes pain, you know, that causes hurt, and that causes them to run, and they want to leave. It's not God, you know, it's people. It's humans. And I think that's a big aspect with Jonah. I mean, Jonah was thinking as a human, you know, he had fear. He didn't want to go to a place that was dangerous and full of sin and with crime. You know, he wanted to stay where it was safe. He wanted to stay where it was comfortable, and it's not always going to be comfortable. I really like that story just because, like I said, it can go with anything. It can revolve around anything. Yeah, I find it to be very relatable, except for the fish part, but it's very relatable.
And I think a point that you just made was how Jonah wanted to stay in the comfortable, you know? Mm-hmm. And maybe the comfortable isn't where you're meant to be.
Yeah.
So I don't know, that just I don't want to say mind blown because I wasn't mind blown by it, you know, but it just stuck with me right now. So
learn to be comfortable where you're uncomfortable.
Yeah. No.
Write it down.
But yeah, maybe take a moment to reflect on that. Are you meant to be where you're actually uncomfortable, or are you meant to stay in your comfort zone? You know, how do you grow in your comfort zone? You can only grow so much. You kind of have to step out of it in order to be able to grow more, in order to grow either in the spirit or physically mature.
Yeah.
Or not physically mature, emotionally mature, you know?
Yeah.
Because physically mature is something else.
Just build muscle.
But yeah, this is so much different than with college.
I know. I'm fun. It's like a plant, though. I mean, we can give so many examples, right? We can give so many examples, but I think it's just an interesting topic, and it's an interesting story because it's one that we all go through, even if you're not a pastor's kid, right? Even if you don't grow up in church, you know, you go through moments where you feel shame and you feel guilt and you want to hide away from the world. You go through moments where you
get put out of your comfort zone.
You get thrown out there and you're just like, what do I do now? And you want to run and hide. You don't want to stay where everyone can see you.
Yeah.
But sometimes you have to be where everyone can see you so you can set example for somebody else who might be going through the same thing and doesn't want to be put in that position.
Yeah.
Right? It's not always go up there and imagine everybody in their underwear and just I can do it. No, it's go up there, be confident in who you are. Do what you need to do because it's what you're supposed to do and because you know it's right. At the end of the day, I mean, if God called you to do it, what can go wrong?
Yeah.
What can go wrong? I think it's harder for some reason, it's harder for us to trust God knowing that God is not going to fail us. Because we know, right? We tell people and people tell us, and it's just a known fact, God's not going to fail you. He's not going to fail you. He's not. But for some reason, we just find more comfort staying in a place where it's I don't know what's going to happen. And just staying there in fear than it is to step out, trusting whatever God's called you to do, knowing that he's not going to fail you.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of comfort. It's a matter of that. And we just need to step out of that.
And I feel like it's such a beautiful experience once you do step out. And knowing ¿cómo se dice? Que Dios te respalda.
He's got your back.
Okay, he's got your back, right? Like, knowing that God has your back and that he's the one that called you to do it, it's such a different experience, because I feel like when you know that and you're like, and you decide, yes, I'm gonna follow through with it, like, it's such a different demeanor, and I feel like you can even see it, like, physically. Like, it's like a glow. Like, I feel like you change because there's so much confidence, there's so much like, wisdom, and there's so much, I don't know how to describe it, but it, like, the way you act, the way you go about it, I feel like it kind of, it reflects who God is. So it's not reflecting you're human, it's reflecting God.
And then you're like, what the heck, I should have done this sooner.
Yeah. But that's what I find, like, that's so beautiful. Yeah.
Great terminology. I wouldn't have said it that way, but yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I wouldn't have said it that way, is what I'm saying. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything you would like to add?
No, I think it's an interesting topic. I think this one can go on, right? I think a lot of people can relate to it. And honestly, I guess I would say, like, if you're one of those people that did decide to leave, or that, you know, is still hiding or is still debating on whether to continue, you know, with God, or even thinking about, like, should I do this with my life? Like, this is what God wants for me. I don't want it, but should I do this? It's okay. It's okay to be in that debate. It's okay to feel doubt. It's okay to feel conflicted, because we feel it too. You know, like, I feel it too. You know, I still doubt myself. I still feel conflicted sometimes. And sometimes I'm still laying in bed just praying, like, God, please, I don't want to marry a pastor. But then other times I'm like, God, just whatever you want. You know, whatever you wanted.
Yeah.
It's my conversation with the Lord.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's okay. That's what y'all need to know. Like, it's okay to be in that position, and it's okay to make mistakes, and it's okay to feel that way. We don't judge, we don't point fingers, because we know what it's like to get judged and to get pointed at.
Yeah.
But remember that that's people. Those are humans. It's not God. And God's always going to have his arms wide open, you know, just ready to receive you and just ready to take you back. And I think that's something that we need to remember all the time. Just keep that in mind. God's not going to fail us. He's not going to abandon us. If we choose to leave, we chose to leave. God didn't leave us. We made the decision because he gave us free will and he allowed us to choose, and that's what we chose. But he didn't leave us, and he's still there. You know, like, he never closed the door on us. He's standing outside the door. We just have the door closed. You know, so we can always open it and be like, all right, bro, come on in. Let's converse. Have some coffee or something, you know, like, just have a moment with him.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's the only thing that I can really, like, tell people is just, he's always there. He's always going to be there. He's not going to fail. He's not going to leave you. He's not going to make you feel abandoned. You know, if you choose to leave, you chose to leave, but he's going to be right outside the door waiting for you to open it for him.
Yeah.
Because that's how he is. You know, that's how God is. That's how he was with Jonah, right? Yes, he got swallowed by a whale, but that was because Jonah chose to leave. Jonah chose to go into the waters, and the whale was like,
Here I am.
So that's how it is. But God was like, all right, come on out. Yeah. Let's do what we need to do.
And if you think about it, once he was swallowed by the whale or the fish, you know, he, like, it's kind of odd, right? Because that's an odd place to be in. But that's where he was able to come to, like, realization. What?
Seafood.
No.
He was able to see food.
I understand, but no.
Imagine.
No, but
smell.
No.
Anyways, what were you saying? It was an awkward situation.
No, how he was able to. Hold on.
Sorry.
It made me a little nauseous. But like that, he was able to reach like this intimate point in his relationship with the Lord, right? And so it's like, it's kind of odd because, you know, he was inside a whale, you know, but that's something that Carla and I have been telling our viewers in every episode. You know, I always think back to Carla's wording and I forget how she words things, but we would like for you guys to be able to experience that intimate moment with the Lord, you know, having a moment where you're in your secret place, where you're by yourself, where you're able to experience the Lord without feeling that fear of like, I'm gonna get pointed at, I'm being watched, you know, by other people in the congregation, or I'm getting judged for the way I'm praying. Like, no, we want you to be able to experience what it's like to just be you and God. And that's something that helped me a lot in my personal relationship with the Lord, was thinking it's just me and God. You know, nobody else is around. I mean, yes, I was at church. Yes, there was a whole congregation. But my focus was, this is my relationship with the Lord, not my congregation and I relationship with the Lord, you know?
Yeah.
This is just me and him.
Yeah.
And so that helped me build my relationship with God and focus on building myself up also, you know?
Because that's where you experience him the most. Like,
yeah.
That's where you get to actually know who he is to you, right? And not who he is to your parents or to the people, but who he is to you. And it's just like, it's that moment where you just connect with him.
Yeah.
Right? You just connect with him. And I mean, obviously this was a movie, like the VeggieTales movie, like it was in the movie where like all the angels appeared, like in the stomach of the whale.
Chances.
I wasn't going to mention the song, but yes, that part. And I just imagine, like, what if he did encounter all of that while he was in there, right? Like, what if he did encounter God in such a way? You know, what if he, you know, experienced angels or music or whatever? What if it didn't even smell for him in there? Like, you know, we don't know, but I feel like that would have been an intimate moment with God. An odd place to be, but a very intimate moment with God. And sometimes we have to encounter God in the worst timing, right? Like the worst moments.
So it's metaphorical.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was being swallowed by
Maybe you should get swallowed by a whale.
A whale. And we're probably in like thinking we hit rock bottom. And in reality we didn't, you know, but that's where we encountered the Lord, so
it'll happen. And it'll happen for everybody. Different times, different situations. But I think at one point, I hope, right, that everybody encounters God in a certain way, in a specific way, a different way, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how I see it. Those are my 2 cents, right? You can always come back. You can always
for a third. Get it? Third cent, because you said 2 cents.
Anyways,
right?
But yeah, that's how I see it. It's a really good topic. It's a really good story.
Right.
Yeah.
It came from the Lord, you know.
Anyways, guys, that was it for today. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome.
I think it was fun.
Thank you for being here, Vanessa. I'm sure they all enjoyed it.
I'll be back.
Okay. We don't know about that. Right. Just kidding. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see.
I will be. Carla's busy.
Okay. Anyway, Thank you guys for watching today's episode. Thank you for watching our past episodes. Follow on.
Don't forget to like.
Yes,
and subscribe.
Like and subscribe on YouTube. Follow on Spotify, and you can rate it. Rate the episode
5 stars.
You can also. I think it asks you like what you thought about the episode.
You can post like questions and stuff, right?
So
Your
you
comments.
can do that. I've seen like some.
Leave your comments
You're
down
able
below.
to do that. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at True Confessions PK. You can also email us at true.confessionspk@gmail.com.
We're nearing the end of the first season, right?
Yes.
We're nearing the end of the first
Wow.
season. So what does that mean? Send in your topics. Send in questions. Send in stories.
She's really liking being here.
You want it told? We'll bring it to the table.
Oh, I thought she was going to say, we'll tell it.
Well, yeah. We'll bring it to the table.
Oh.
The table.
And I'll pour it in the coffee. We put them in here because we're not advertising.
We're not sponsored.
Yeah.
Anyways. Well, guys. It was really great to be here. And I hope you guys... we hope that you guys really enjoyed this topic and this story. And that you guys encounter God differently, right? After this. Hopefully.
Okay. Bye, guys.